Hi, Anna. How are you tonight? Hi, Mariah. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. So, are you first, Anna?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't remember how we started Monday's. Excuse me, Monday's sort of conversation with everyone, but I guess we probably talked a little bit about the review and the sort of next steps.
Okay. I gotta plug in my computer. It's giving me the low battery message. Okay.
Did your kiddos enjoy Halloween?
Yeah, they did. The
bad.
weather was perfect.
It was perfect.
Not like the last couple of years. It's been, I know 2 years ago it was like snowing sideways.
Yeah.
So it was a nice change.
Nice change, indeed.
Yeah. So yeah, they enjoyed it.
Good. Should we come back to you, Anna?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I thought you were waiting for people to come on.
No, you have the floor.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm ready then.
Okay.
I apologize.
No worries.
So I'll start with this. Hopefully that'll. Okay, so I started looking at a couple other case studies, as you had suggested, and one that I was really interested in that I've seen this project before because it's local. Can you see this?
I can.
Okay. I'm sure you've heard of it. What's that?
Is this the DTE?
It's Lafayette Greens.
Oh, right. Yeah, this is Ken Weichel. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is Ken Weichel. Actually, it's his wife who designed all of this. I mean, they're both landscape architects, but this is, and he'll tell you this, he credits his wife for all of this.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking at, like, I was trying to think of for, starting to develop like what I'm doing with the site. And so I was trying to think of some ideas, and I immediately thought of Lafayette Greens because I like that it's in a relatively small little lot, and there's
Right.
quite a bit going on, you know.
Yep.
And it's the agri-urban, which is definitely what I'm going for. So I just started looking at that, and I want to integrate, like they've got a few different, obviously they've got some planter beds, and they have like a small children's garden. They've got these garden sheds for storage.
Which are pretty cool. They're kind of funky and quirky and unusual, and
Yeah,
and
they're
they're
not
right on the street,
right. So, and then there's the terrace, and there's each side has something different going on, which I thought was really cool. It's
Me
like,
too.
like no matter which way you enter, you're going to have a different experience. So, so I
I
was
think
looking.
also the fact that it's a sort of a productive garden in terms of it outputting, plants that you can, and vegetables that you can eat, food that you eat,
Mhm.
but also it's a destination. The people actually go there and photograph it. They stand in front of the buildings, and they stand in front of the lavender run, and they take their photograph. They take their photograph with the garden and the architecture in the background. It's really a clever sort of interpretation of a vacant lot.
Yeah, it is. I think that's what's great about it is it's like you said, it's productive. There's actually like plants being grown that can be used, but it's also a destination. And I think that for me, that's what was most appealing, is that it's not just growing plants. It's something else. It's somewhere for people to come and that people are going to want to hang out.
Right.
So, I've started drawing some stuff out on my plans. I'll show you those in a minute. It's not, near this detailed yet, but I'm starting to kind of like lay it out and develop, where I'm going to be placing things. So, and then this is just like a little image, but you know what it looks like. So,
Yep.
And then let me see. Can you see my Revit now?
Now you still have your planter photos up. You have your photo viewer up.
See, I wonder.
You have to change the screen that you share.
Okay, you have to go in and change it.
Mhm.
Oops. All right, let me see here. Do you know? Okay. There we are. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't PDF it because
That's right. It's a live file.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know what happened to, oh, never mind. Okay. Some stuff disappeared for a second. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, it's really simple right now. This green blocking is essentially where, grass and or, vegetation will be. The large green block on the northeast corner there, that's going to be the more public area. And then, have it transition back into a more private garden area. I spent a little more time developing what's going on behind the residences. I had initially had planned on doing some micro units back here, but I was playing around with it, and they were really awkward because I realized as I was drawing them out that the second level of those, those units that I've already developed, the family units, it was like really weird for egress for the secondary bedroom upstairs. So having those micro units there, it was starting to get really weird and get really choppy. So initially I actually had them laid out similar to how these gardens are laid out to follow the angles.
I remember.
But it just, I don't know, it was, and I wasn't getting that many units by the time I had to like create openings and areas for people to come, like for egress for the secondary bedrooms upstairs to, in case of fire, basically to be able to escape. And so I was chopping it up and I was getting very few units out of it. So I realized I'm like, you know what, I need to just like rethink what's going on behind there. And so I was looking at the, the neighboring houses. They obviously all have backyards, but I wanted to be more than a backyard. So I created on the ends here, kind of like these little bookends are like little storage sheds. And then I don't know, can you see me when I zoom in? Is it?
I can.
Okay. So I created like these small, essentially like little greenhouses on either end.
Can you zoom out so I can see the whole image?
Yeah. Can you see the whole
Zoom
image?
out even more. And then pan it toward the upper left a little bit more. It's cutting, it's clipping, the hangout is clipping some of the artwork. I can't see the streets, for example.
Oh, okay. Can you see them now, or
Keep pushing it to the north and the upper left, rather. There we go. Thank you.
Okay. So, yeah, so on like the lower, like the southwest corner of the building and the
plan almost.
What's that?
You show that storage unit as a floor plan, and it looks like you're trying to show it as a hip roof on the east end. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was playing around with, what I could do with the roof on here. So, I mean, I want to kind of develop like what the roof is going to be doing. So I just was starting to lay it out on the east end and hadn't touched the west side yet.
Okay.
So, but essentially both of those blocks are going to be, a little bit of storage for, gardening supplies and tools, and then small greenhouses so that even in the winter, there's still at least a small amount of, perhaps some planting that can be going on. And then these back, they were courtyards on these residences. They've turned into terraces now because they will open onto these garden spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was debating about putting like a privacy wall and having a door, but I thought it might be nice though, to be able to, enjoy it, actually, to be able to sit on your back patio and enjoy the view. So, so yeah, and then I gave some grassy area. I may still develop that, but I did want to have a little bit of grassy area because, if there's kids there, they're going to want some grass to play in, or if they have pets. And then these would be like these kind of trapezoidal boxes are, I'm going to add more detail to those, but those are going to be placement of garden beds.
Yeah, so those are maybe like raised beds.
Yeah, exactly. So there'd be, fruits, vegetables, and then along the, above the grassy trapezoids there would just be some nice, like garden beds with flowering plants.
So what's interesting about this, so thanks for doing this. There's 5 units here, and the 2 units on the left are strictly symmetrical. The one on the far right is sort of interesting because it is both able to have a lawn in the back and the shed, but the one on the left, because it's mauled with the one immediately, mirrored and joined to the one immediately to the right of it, it does not have the lawn. You see that? Just because of the rhythm and the sort of sequencing of things, so like that family on the west end can't have a rear yard. They have to have. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know how that resolves. Is the shed for all of the community in that group of 5?
Yeah, I was thinking both of the sheds would be for, these residents would probably be the ones using it the most, but it definitely could be something that could be open to being used by, other members of the community.
Sure.
you know, because that's what I envision the backside being a bit more private, but not strictly
Okay.
private.
Have you attempted massing these or studying them in elevation?
The
These
units?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, I started looking at them in elevation. I still have to add windows. I started adding some and playing around with. Are you able to see that?
I can.
Okay, so I definitely want to do some sort of sloping roof just to speak to the local, you know, the surrounding architecture. So actually what I did, I can show you the second level development in a minute, the
Okay.
floor plan. But the upper level, this above these double windows here,
Yep.
there's this wall. It actually steps out about 2 feet. So it'll overhang that lower level a little bit. And that allowed me to make the master bedroom a little bit bigger.
Good.
And I actually I was just thinking I might mirror that, like in the back, the secondary bedrooms
Yep.
could actually afford to be a little smaller. And so I actually may step them inward. So it'll kind of like from a side profile, we'll have like well, let me see if I can. So right now you've got this stepping out. So this back wall will actually step inward. So yeah, here you can see the overhang to the front. Yeah, so, and then I have like an upper level balcony off of the master. So I definitely, I need to finish adding windows and play around with playing with different heights. Right now they're all pretty consistent, so I think it'd be a little more interesting if they weren't all exactly the same height. Let me see. Might work if you can see in 3D view.
I can.
So, this actually, you can see the back side, so you get a little better view of those and greenhouses, and then the back side of the units with the terraces, and then the upper level there. And then let me spin it around to the front so you can a little bit see the dimension of that a bit more. So initially I had that upper level flush so that wall went straight up.
I see.
But I actually liked bringing that master out, because it gave it a little more space in the bedroom, but also it broke up that massive wall too. So let me see. I'll go to level 2. Nope, that's ceiling plan. Sorry. Okay. So yeah, I started laying it out up here. I laid out the bathroom and the master. I was playing around with too, actually stepping out the wall that's above the main entry.
Yeah.
Stepping it out about a foot to give like basically a good sized walk-in closet. Because that skinny space there, I was running into some issues with how to lay it out or what to do with it. So, and you still have a pretty good sized balcony. So I got to play around with that a little bit more, but, and then this small little square that's just to the north of the bathroom, there's a linen closet, but then I was thinking of having that be like a laundry closet for like a stackable washer and dryer.
Would that be access from the bedroom or from the hall?
Well, I was gonna have it access from the bedroom, but I don't know if it's probably a little awkward.
It is awkward. Can you let me see more of the plan again? The bottom of the plan is getting cut off. I'm not seeing. So just so I'm clear, the master bedroom. So there's 2 bedrooms here, and they share a hall bath, correct?
Right.
Okay, I'm fine with that. So
Yeah.
I think that what I think is the linen closet, that should be the laundry closet.
Okay.
And then the then the linen closet can be maybe part of that big box that's between the bedroom and the sink,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's probably more of a reach-in kind of thing. And then you probably just use the back of it as a chase for maybe mechanical and things like that are.
Yeah. Well, that's what I had thought too. I'm like, there's definitely ample room there that part of it would be a chase for mechanical.
The other option is to not put the tub on the outside wall,
mm-hmm.
and maybe rework the bathroom so that the toilet's on the outside wall.
Okay.
And the tub is somewhere else.
Okay.
I'm not sure that you have the room for it. You know, the master is actually pretty. It's pretty generous. I mean, it's a nice sized room,
mm-hmm.
and that one left and right, east and west running wall, that's kind of set up by the stairway. So I appreciate the geometry. I wouldn't want to sort of violate that, but there might be a way to look at that.
Okay.
And the closet door, I think that door should swing in.
For the master closet?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And then, so you have a little terrace off of the master. Lovely.
Mm-hmm.
What is that closet for out there?
Well, I have the lower level, the outside storage on the lower level, and I was debating about what to do rather than just having it, just having that wall come up and do nothing with it and have it be a void. I had thought, you know, it could be storage for, you know, if say on your terrace you have a little outdoor furniture, and in the winter you want to package it away.
Okay.
So
I'll buy that.
What's that?
I'll buy that.
Okay. So yeah, I may play around with that a little bit more too, but.
So let's go back to did you want to show me something else?
Oh yeah, well, I wanted to show you this second, the you know, would be like the kids' room and the back side. I mean, that's definitely a good size room. So that's why I was saying I may step this back a little bit just to shrink that down a little so it's not so close to the size of the master, because I think it can afford to shrink a little bit anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not that much smaller than the master bedroom, really.
Yeah. Can you pan that up a little bit more to the upper left, because it's getting cut? There we go.
Yeah.
So, well, there's a couple of things that are maybe here. You could put 2 twin beds in there and put them on the wall that is facing the back garden, so that you've raised the density of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's definitely doable. I think that room is a good enough size. You could easily put 2 twin beds.
But is the room actually that close in size? If you take out the closet, isn't the area of this children's bedroom technically smaller? If you take out the closet and the desk.
Oh yeah, if you don't include that, essentially.
Yeah, I think it's
a good size?
I think it's small enough.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's clearly smaller, and
Yeah.
I think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I know like the master does have a large closet, so and it's definitely still bigger. I just didn't know if it was, you know, if the kids' room was too close in size. You know, but I hadn't thought of the idea of putting 2 twin beds in there, so I think that's definitely
But
probably
what's happening in the unit on the other side? Is it your intention to mirror these and you just haven't done that yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was still playing around with stuff, you know, in some of the spaces. So that was my intention, was to mirror these.
Mm-hmm.
So
can I look at the whole plan now of this building?
the first floor, or
No, just this one right here is fine.
Okay, yeah.
So zoom out a little bit more and move it to the left.
Left.
There you go.
Okay.
So there's an east-west wall that's really east-west running wall that is the northern wall of the stairway.
Yep.
Yep. And that wall is kind of consistent through the whole architecture, right? But it's also kind of at the midpoint.
Mhm.
So where I'm trying to take this conversation now is back to the form. And I guess I'd like to suggest that that you look at that as kind of that wall is kind of a fulcrum.
Mhm.
You look at it as kind of the center of gravity for that roof, whatever that roof is. So
Okay.
I don't know what you were thinking of when you said, slopey roofs.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'd like to sort of have you think about, are you familiar with the work of Patkow Architects?
Yeah, I've heard the name, and I'm sure
if you close this and look them up, they did a building outside of Toronto,
Mhm.
but most of their roofs, Anna, are these butterfly roofs.
Okay.
And that's where I'm trying to take this conversation. So the low point of the roof could be that wall.
Okay.
For some reason, I'm losing my voice again. I've been doing really well the last couple of days. So pardon me. Can you find them on the internet?
Yeah.
They did the good grief. They did the Clay and Glass Museum in Kitchener. So if you're ever on your way to Toronto, you need to stop and pull off the road.
Yeah.
In fact, when I take the students to Toronto, I stay in Kitchener because I only drive the 3 hours up, not all 4. And then in the morning I go visit it. Can you do a screen share on that?
Yeah. There we go. Okay, so I'm on their website.
Yeah, so it does not have to be the Clay and Glass Museum, or just maybe go to. It probably needs to be some of their older work.
Okay.
Scroll down.
I know I've seen their name several times. Does this have a butterfly roof? I can't tell.
I can't either.
No.
Maybe. Oh, they did the library in Winnipeg. I didn't realize that.
Nice.
Okay, so maybe go back and just type in Patkow for images.
Okay.
Because I can't really see these.
Oh, I remember their name when I was in Deirdre Henneberry and Philip Plowright's one of my studios with them. They did the Grand Bibliothèque in Quebec, and I did a case study on that library. Okay.
So this is a husband and wife firm.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, so the third row, the second row, the third picture.
Second row, third.
Right. It has the bicycles out in front.
Why do I not see?
I guess.
Oh, right there. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
So that's sort of what I'm talking about.
Okay.
A butterfly roof that. So I don't know where your cursor is right now, but there's a vertical wall at the fold.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the wall I'm talking about for you.
Okay. Yeah. I hadn't thought of that. I was thinking of more of like a gable, and
I know you were.
Yeah, but this I think actually makes more sense.
The issue with what I'm suggesting,
Mhm.
So I'm just trying to cause you to not default to the gable,
Right.
Because it would be an easy thing to execute it. What I am trying to do is trying to have you recognize the sort of inherent, or the sort of intrinsic compositional messages, right, that your plans are giving you, and I want you to start noticing those things as you're designing, right?
Yeah.
And so so that's why we went to Pat-Cal. The challenge with where I'm taking you, the challenge with creating, in effect, 5 units with a mono roof, right, with a singular roof, is to also give that building grouping, right, the ability to be read as like 5 neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
So the struggle will be not so much in massing or in 3 dimensions, but I think it will be in how you execute the sort of vertical markings of each unit, as a singular, facade expression. So I think it's worth that challenge, and I think it's probably worth sort of exploring. If you can scroll down a little bit more, so like this piece is a fairly dramatic butterfly.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that dramatic. Keep scrolling down. Okay, so there's a model with trees on the far right.
Yeah.
Let's click on that. I know it's not the same.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that really looks like a series of flat roofs. That's actually probably a much bigger sort of complex. Can you type in Clay and Glass Museum?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there it is. So let's scroll down. Okay, no, not the color image. This is interesting because it's not showing the view of the museum that you have that you see the butterfly roof.
Is there? Let me see. Is which one is this?
Well, it's that museum, right? That's the building.
Maybe if I type in Canadian clay, be a little more specific.
Well, so the second row has an interior shot, so you're seeing the impact of the cross section.
This one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nice.
And then that wall can be not only a thing that's holding up that fold, but that wall can penetrate through the butterfly and then become something else, like I don't know what it can be, but sculpturally and architecturally it can be something more.
Mm-hmm.
But it's maybe something worth looking at, and I would just encourage you, and it doesn't have to be just like a square plate with a fold. It can be, a piece of cardboard that's folded, but it can have a different attitude at each end.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It can relate to the street at one end, it can relate to the neighborhood at the west end. So it can be torn or folded or crimped. It can be biased. A bias cut on each end might be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a firm that really does look at traditional roof shapes, but inverts them,
Mm-hmm.
and does it with, I think, tremendous drama. And the butterfly roof has also operated in their smaller projects. So there are a number of single family residences that they've done them in, and it might be interesting to look at how that plays out
Mm-hmm.
in their portfolio.
Yeah. Definitely. I'll have to look into their residential stuff.
So I also felt like, when I looked at your presentation last week, that you needed to have that more comprehensive site plan. Have you been able to start attacking that yet, Anna?
Not yet. That's my next plan of attack once I get a few more details and finish up kind of working out some of the details on the floor plans. And then I wanted to start adding to like the plan. you know how my first floor is basically a hybrid site plan. I
Right.
wanted to start adding to that and expand out a little bit, but then also have like a separate, more of an overall site plan that shows maybe a little more, I don't want to say diagrammatically, is that, I don't know if that's a word, but
It is.
but you know, obviously it'll have all the information, but it won't have as much detail just because it's, you know, larger scale. So but I think now that I kind of abandoned the micro units at the back side of the hang on, let me, yeah, the back side of the townhomes. Hang on, trying to stop screen. There we go. That I'm gonna look at that house across the street that I had talked about doing, like the in residence, and developing that a little bit too. And so that'll be included on that plan that I was just showing you with the first floor plan. That'll become a part of that. And then you know, starting the overall plan. So that's like the next plan of attack, is kind of looking at the overall plan, and then you know, obviously just detailing out the zoomed in stuff.
So I want to show you one more thing, but before I go to it, the other reason that I'm suggesting Pat-Cow is because when you look at the geometry of your floor plans, that folded form against a regular, that folded angle against regular geometry is sort of like evident as a graphical motif in your floor plan.
Yeah.
And when I looked at that thing as a graphical motif, I thought of the Pat-Cow.
Yeah.
So that's partly the reason that that's partly another reason why I brought that up. But I also think that geometry, which is intrinsic to your planning, is maybe something that you can migrate to other components of the neighborhood, not only the ground plane in terms of landscaping, hardscaping, and things like that, but maybe to the way that you deal with the existing house, for example. And I'm trying to find something that'll maybe not upset you, but something that will jar you a little bit. And there's a firm, they did a museum in Canton, Ohio. So it's not, their work is something you can see and discover. Why am I not finding it? Good grief. But one of their very first projects is an addition from, like, gosh, the 1970s. And it took an old historic building. I'm looking at their website and I can't find it. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Here it is. Okay, so let me screen share. So this is a firm. This is a firm out of Prague. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So this is Coop Himmelblau. This is Wolf Creeks, and so you can see this is the top floor of like a 6-story building, right? It's a you know, tried and true classical building with classical details, classical moldings and tabernacles around the windows, a classical molding at the cornice, and then there's this room that's kind of a glass scab onto the roof, and it's this glass volume that is obviously, it's very, very dynamic. It's very much it's what we used to call back in the old days deconstructivist architecture.
Yeah.
And this is the interior of that room, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there is an order to it. There is kind of a geometry that's operating here. It's a geometry that's fairly much contrarian to the normal staid geometry of that classical volume that it's sitting on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a way of creating some tensional contrast to that thing, right? So where I'm taking this is that original house that is on the vacant lot.
Mm-hmm.
That east wall is maybe an opportunity to migrate a little sister version of the townhome roof and play with it, explore the basic biplate fold as a way of capturing more volume or more space onto that house, in order to, maybe create more residential program in it.
Yeah.
Or to create maybe a more social space
Mm-hmm.
off of the stairway, but it's a social space that is at one moment part of the stair and yet part of the garden.
Yeah.
And something that's steel and glass or wood and glass,
Yeah.
right? Doesn't have to have this vocabulary, but all I'm showing it to you to set up contrast, just to set up a tension between what's there and what could be. This is the piece in Akron that I'll take you guys to someday. Can you see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That is that's what we call in the business a big ass cantilever.
Yeah. Definitely.
Now this is another building.
Wow.
That's in South Korea, but this thing sticks out over the street.
Wow.
So this is actually one of their very first projects. When they started, they were doing drawings because of the economy. They were teaching and doing drawings, but this is actually a very old firm who kind of created these unusual. Like here's another one right here.
Well,
right, tried and true, almost looks like something out of Italy,
right?
And maybe something a little bit more modern, but definitely only 300 years old. And then this sort of insert. So it could be at one moment an addition to that old house.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a pavilion, a freestanding pavilion in the in that green space. It could be something that slides on tracks that joins the house and fuses to it, and then moves out into the garden.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a movable feast, a moving program. So those are all things that, and the reason I sort of bring this up is because when you look at, can you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So like when you look at farm equipment,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's this somewhat menacing, moving. It has this really. I think it has like in terms of vocabulary, it has a vocabulary that you can like be inspired by. I was struck today by something I saw on. We talked a little bit about Bjarke Ingels the other day, and he just did a project for the Navy Yard in, and here's the study on it. Why doesn't it let me advance? Oh, this is too old. It just opened. Here it is. So here's the facade,
Mm-hmm.
and here's the diagram. So there's like a courtyard, and the courtyard is oh, good grief. The courtyard is exhibiting tension, right, on the volume.
Yeah.
So he curves it, but then and then he sort of says, well, like you drop a stone in the water and it radiates out,
Yeah.
creates the curve, but see the water over here?
Mm-hmm.
So then he says, I'm going to do a periscope. Why does that keep popping up? He does like a periscope in the middle of the building so that like in a submarine, you can see the water and that brings light in. But what I thought was interesting is the source. Why can't I not advance? Is that.
Oh, wow.
So, right, like the hull of a ship, that curve, that complex curve is seen as a kind of a gestural shape that becomes kind of the major sort of design motif for this facade. And it's not the whole facade, it's just the facade, right, facing the street.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's kind of the model of it, that sort of, you know, it's just a typical chassis, and he's just sort of looked at one thing as a way of letting that thing, that one wall on the courtyard, be influenced by the hull of a ship, if you will. Yeah. So the combine equipment, right, is or maybe maybe like a spade or a rake or a trowel, right? Like the tools of the trade of gardening, right? Or you know, or something like that. It could be the sort of source for your vocabulary. So I would encourage you to be sort of open to that. You did that in your own project that you showed us back in the beginning of the semester. You let the context influence you. And I think that's still a good, yeah, you could even do like antique farm equipment, right?
Oh, yeah.
So anyways, enough about farming, but you know, architecturally, I think things like this happen a lot. And I think the idea of trying to be inspired by the trade of farming could be an interesting departure point for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I think so. I've got some ideas floating around now, so that's good.
Cool.
So
I'll let you go.
Definitely do that.
Anything else?
No, I think that's all for now.
Sounds good.
So
thanks,
I
Anna.
appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye.
Don't eat all the chocolate, by the way. Save some for me. All right.
Yeah. I know. I told the kids it's a 10% tax, candy tax.
Yeah, you should. And you know, at work, Shayla, our HR director, brought in a big bag of candy, and she said, "This is only half of what they had." I'm like, "Oh my God!"
It's insane.
They made a haul.
Yeah.
It's gross.
It is. It's really gross.
Okay. Let me hear about Halloween from the others here in the audience. Who's next? Thanks, Anna.
Yeah.
I think I was next one.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right. I guess for my last, as a reaction to the our first benchmark.
Yeah.
Now that I can't find where I save my PDFs. Oh wait, did you just throw everything away after? No. Well, I had things in 3D as I was working through all along. It was just they didn't really develop. And I can pull it up in Revit here. So what I started to do is color code the same as what I had for my plans.
Yeah.
Started to color code some 3D views so that they start to relate more diagrammatically with the plans I had already done. So, and then I'll screen share that for you. Okay.
Here we go.
So this this was just showing, you know, as the blue was more the residential, that was to be a rent to own, more of a like duplex or quadplex. It's hard to classify what these are because they're separated, yet they're grouped together. And then the reddish pink coloring in the back, you can start to see how the community space is interacting more with the street. It has a little bit more glazing, more openness to it. And then as we move around, or looking kind of from the top, how the second floor was starting to play into it, the overhang on the roofs, providing the structure, which when I get to the other side, we can look at how that, so now we have this other unit, and then my old parking lot. And this is just what I had for massing on this side. So I just did that as a quick study after we had
Excellent.
gotten done with class, and then through, you know, kind of working through some things, looking at some case studies, I started to change form.
Mm-hmm.
So I can show you kind of where I've been working on lately. So these units here, starting to break and pull these panels down a little bit more, break up the mass, and give me a little bit of transition for certain materials that I want to look at. You know, this being more of looking more like a metal panel, and then going in with like a wood or slat type material for other portions of the building.
Right.
And then that would be continuous, or, you know, similar for these four. And then as we kind of move towards the back to break up the private / public space, I have these panels kind of inspired by the Hancock lofts, where you would enter through some sort of sliding panel system at various points, and then that would break your space between. So as we look at it, you have this semi-private space that you can then open up and slide open.
Right.
To
Right.
get part of the larger circulation. Right. So as you can see from the second floor, how it's starting to modify. I want to look at this stair, bringing it further out and engaging the sidewalk more.
I think that's a good idea. I'm also feeling like, and I don't think you have the room, but maybe you do. I also feel like you need a little bit more gap between those two front teeth.
These ones?
Yeah. And I don't know if you like hold where the west one is, hold where the second one is, and then create a bigger gap, and then just slide the other two closer to the building on the east.
Yep.
I think that's what you do, but
yeah,
I would test that in elevation, because one of the things as you were orbiting around and showing those frozen views, I was feeling like, oh, that stair's too concealed.
Yep.
Or the gap is too constrained.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. The something needs to occur, and also adding some covering and projecting it out to start to form entry, you know, to that second floor. So I was going to start experimenting with that.
So you did a building that stretches. So let's look at that too.
Yeah, So what I'm looking at is the parking lot. It works.
Oh.
It looks very strange, but it was like I was just sitting there pushing, pulling, and trying to get as efficient as possible.
And you know what you did is you moved the dead lawn space toward the development, toward the buildings.
Yeah, I'm looking at, like we were talking about center of gravity. So, and I was really playing with this access here and making this open to the park and, a center of activity for the private units. And this started to make sense in here. And then when I move up to the second floor, it also starts to occur up in this area. I think by moving the other two units over, I probably gain a little bit more. It's just this, whether this unit gets the panel system or not.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, by condensing my parking and pushing it as far to the west as possible, I also picked up distance from the street back to where my parking started.
Yeah, although that one building's really too close to the parking lot. You
Yes,
probably need like 5 feet there just to get some space. So you might just move the parking lot even over more. Yep. Slide that whole thing over to like 12 inches from the property line, or maybe to the west edge of the westmost building on the street. Extend that line up.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you go back to the first model, the colored model, for a second?
I might have closed it. Maybe. Oh, there we go.
That
okay.
one.
This one?
So this is the John R. facade, or the brush facade?
This is the brush facade, yep.
Oh. So these are frozen views. Can you open a model for this, or?
And this is what I had for the benchmark.
Yeah, this was your site plan. This was your first sketch.
Correct.
But I got to tell you, Nathan, I didn't see this out of that sketch. Okay. I saw something more incremental in the way that the freestanding cabins are incremental. In other words, they're kind of like digits, or they're binary. Like, like there's a unit, then there's a space. There's a unit, then there's a space, right? And I felt like what we were going to see on Brush, right, was more of that, but creating the sort of U shape to the courtyard. I never saw this as a unitized building that has like these 3 wings that gesture toward the park, receive the park, and then hold the corner.
Okay.
So for me, this is a very interesting sort of proposition, because this is an urban building that does a really interesting job of receiving the park and creating a facade that also addresses the street, but at the same time creates kind of this portal, right? This sort of mortise through the entire building. I'm not sure how that all works in plan. I guess if you orbit around and I look at the street view, right? The front on elevation of it, right? So that second floor comes in there. Yeah. And I bet you can actually get more units in that. No, maybe not.
Yeah, I think they're already.
Yeah, they're cozy.
I think I have. Yeah, there's the second floor.
I guess I never saw this as one building with three sort of components of different heights. So I'm really struck by that.
Okay.
So I guess I'd like to keep that in play. You want to walk me through the other things that you've looked at?
Yeah, so I started to, maybe I can. So starting to look at a different kind of configuration. I was trying to break up the mass a little bit of the unit along brush. So I was kind of looking at this one here in Belgium, and how like sawtoothing the units.
Yep.
And rotating, you start to create spaces,
Very nice.
exterior, and it starts to kind of play into the other units that I have along Beaubien, and the materials start to speak a little bit more to it. So then I kind of took my first floor and started to do this on the first floor, creating these interior exterior spaces, and then run it kind of a two-story non-sawtooth, but using some other areas as, like the roof up here then becomes a balcony on the second floor.
Of course.
So kind of taking this idea, merging it with what I had before, and taking this and making it two-story. So let me see.
That's a big dog.
Yeah. So
What do you
Walker
have?
So now I have two models open. So this is where I started to try to use that sawtooth moment along this, what would have been like a 1.5 story.
Right.
And it became more difficult to turn the corner.
Yeah.
So, and then once I went up to the second floor, and when I started to do that, I went back to less sawtooth and more of what I had before, but just angling. But then it allows, moments of this balcony back here.
Right.
This overhang is actually,
So this upper floor fits directly over the ground floor that you just showed me?
Correct. So if we
Oh, I see.
But I do lose like the stepping of the 1.5 or 1 story portion over here. I still have it, occurring here, and so I don't know if I went in the wrong direction or.
Well, Can you orbit around so I can see all of it? It's a very, Nathan, it's a very interesting idea. A couple of things maybe. Is that if you can go back to the corner building, the corner building is, as a singular unit, right, is actually a pretty interesting thing.
Yeah, Selco.
I mean, and I can see that evolving into something really, really powerful as a piece of architecture on the corner, confronting with transparency, opacity, materials, all of that thing.
Yep.
And in some ways, it could, in this context, it could become a highly sort of special moment where everything else next to it and behind it is kind of understated and explicitly residential in scale, in detail, and material. And I think that if you went with that, with this scheme, that would be how I would encourage you to sort of pursue it.
Okay.
The thing that is, can you rotate around more towards a pure east view of it? The thing that's maybe a little less special is the stairway.
Yep.
And the balcony. In this context, the balcony is a kind of an important element because that's where you're going to see people walking and getting in and out of their units in a kind of hotel or motel kind of way.
Right.
But there's no kind of like, the thing that's special is the thing on the corner. And I feel like the stairway, which has the potential to be really special as something you would experience, is maybe not that special here. In the earlier scheme, if you go back to that, and all these things are more or less in the same place, which is so ironic. But here, the stair, like at Frank Gehry's Loyola piece, the stair is a special thing. At Loyola, it's hung off of the facade, but here it's actually framed like a picture, right? And it's in this multi-story space, so it's a thing that you experience, and it's a thing where the architecture shades you or protects you. So there's a really, and it's a threshold from here in the park to the street, to the interior street or the interior parking lot. So there's lots that's going on there. And then in this model, I think also that corner piece is potentially still very, very ripe for treating it as a kind of a nuanced condition.
Right.
The other thing that's happening in this scheme, and this is something that Judd has been, trying to work with, is trying to unitize the program in such a way that it's in like one or two buildings, and most everyone is, maybe with the exception tonight of like Anna, who's kind of mulled these townhouses together and is maybe thinking of doing it under one roof, although I'm not sure if she will. But it's a bigger building on the site that may or may not work well for her on that block. I think that's something that she'll have to look at and evaluate. But for a busy street, like in Judd's case, like in your case, this might actually be an appropriate response.
Okay.
So, I mean, right now it's beautiful with no windows.
Right. That's
in a kind of minimalist way.
I think once I start looking at windows, I'm going to probably want to start breaking up the facade a little bit to start looking at projecting, protruding. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. Can you orbit around on this one? Which way do the units? So the front of the big windows, the living rooms are going to be on the brush side, right? Or on the street side. It is brush that we're talking about, right?
Yes.
That is, yeah.
Yep.
Because they're going to be there on the park.
Mm-hmm.
So are you familiar with the work of Deborah Burke?
Sounds familiar.
Actually, oh, well, you're going to see all of her. So you go to, I'll show you, you're going to laugh. So Deborah Burke is an architect. When you type her in, you get all of her model shots. She used to be a Calvin Klein model. Mm-hmm. She's the dean of architecture at Yale. So she's a big deal, right? She's a very, very accomplished, successful architect. But this is kind of an interesting piece by her, right? So this is an art gallery. So it uses supersized windows, right, to like show the program inside. Mm-hmm. And then there's this piece that she did for the bank, for this bank, which is in she did a I have her monograph here. I just don't want to get up and I'm not finding it. Well, let me show you the bank. It's in Columbus, Indiana. And you know, she dresses it down. She dresses down part of the building in order to create something special, which is the which is where you get your money deposited or where you get it where you withdraw it. She did another wonderful little retail building. I think it was retail. I'm not. Let me go back to, and it's the one I want to show you. Bear with me here. But maybe the idea of looking at the windows as a specialty condition. I'm looking. Here it is. Or maybe looking at other things that, oh, it's a library, great. So looking at other things like the roof as a way of animating the architecture and the form. I mean, I think there's something really powerful about the first scheme in its sort of purity and its austerity. What it lacks in is the stuff that actually may harm that purity, which is like the messy stuff like living room windows, bathroom windows, bedroom windows, materials, right? But as a pure composition, it's really quite a beautiful thing. Right. But like, look what she did here. You see this thing right up here? Mm-hmm. So this is a continuous roof for the length of the building that pops up over the main roof. Like when you partially open a tuna can, right? Yep. Or a can of Spam, you know, you pull back the top and it creates a different silhouette than when the lid is conformed to the body. And pulling it up allows for light to come in, and it allows for the elevation to read a little bit more richly. So I'm going to see if there's more on this. So that's the interior, I guess. I guess I didn't realize that it was a library. Oh. The other thing that it's in Indiana. Is you have to start thinking about these materials, because I think they're gonna contribute or potentially frustrate you.
Right.
And I guess it's the same image, so never mind.
Yeah, it's easier to handle it.
Here's another shot of it. This is a better shot,
Okay.
right? So I mean, clearly small town,
Mhm.
small scale. Yet it's a big building. It's an impressive building. So like this could be the corner building, right? This is maybe one way of approaching the corner building, where you activate the roof, you give it a silhouette, a sculptural silhouette that's a little more special than everything else around it, and you open it up with the things that matter on the corner, matter on the street, like large windows, right, that let the street connect with the function inside, and vice versa. Canopies that cover pedestrians as they walk by the building. These are all things that make the experience of engaging that building urbane and civilized, right? The residential units, on the other hand, are kind of their own thing. And the idea of maybe doing punched windows there could be interesting. The idea of doing curtain walls could be interesting. But I think, the thing that nags all of these projects is the cost, and the sort of image that cost is the image that an expensive building, a high costing building is going to produce in this neighborhood. And it just maybe is not the appropriate thing to do. So I'm intrigued with how you think this is going to go. I'm intrigued with how you sort of speculate this is going to play out. I don't know if you've thought through that, but
Yeah, not so much on the larger, the bigger the building, I think the tougher it's going to be to bring along materialistically. The smaller units along OBN, I have an idea for those, but it's this larger unit that I think is going to, take some work. But
so, we've been working with Liz Whitaker, who's actually lecturing at Lawrence Tech this spring. So like, if you look at her site, Merge Architects, we saw this in Allison Brooks's work, where the walls and the roofs are the same material, and they're all sculpted. I'm going to go back to it. They're all sculpted to create the language of these individual units. This could be like the form of the big building, right? The idea that it's a series of vertical expressions with simple windows. These are all windows the same size. I guess maybe I need to go to the plates. Right, these windows are all the same size. It's just a 3-story building. You enter low, and there's 2 floors above. It's the same dumb box that you've got, but look how active that flat wall is, because it ain't flat at all. It's a series of frames of white extrusion that captures a wood inset with 2 windows, and then a white mass next to it with 2 windows, and then all of it framed in kind of a metal, an L-shaped metal kind of, I don't know what that is. I guess it's kind of the letter P, right, or the letter L, but then it drops down, and then this is kind of like a light monitor, maybe for a bedroom. So the roof can play in your case, and it plays, I think, a role in this case, an active role, right? It's bringing light into the project.
Yep. It looks like they have some sort of roof access in the.
It might be. It looks like that actually might be a stairway up there.
Yep.
Yep. See that?
Yeah.
Let's see if there's another one that. So I don't know what this is. You know, I don't know what the project is, but this could be the big box. And look at the box as a series of like cuts and mortises, not just one simple thing. Things pushed back. I guess this is a house. That's a big house. Yeah, see?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a big house.
That was very intriguing with the graphics that she used.
I think, did we look at, I know we looked at Penn
Street
Lofts one time. And this maybe could be, you know, another approach, right? So there's like this 3-story building, 2-story building, and the facade is this. Let's go back one. The facade, I want to show you the drawing. The facade is this opportunity to do punctures that relate to the program inside, but it can create its own composition relative to the sort of landscape in front of it. So like for your park, like imagine this is that facade. It doesn't have to keep the same shape of the facade of yours. It can be modified. Look how, like, think of that as your stairway inset, and notice how all of the windows are kind of biased to one end, like they kind of move the needle to so the center of gravity is off to one side. This is kind of an interesting strategy to create kind of a relationship of windows in this plane relative to something happening in the site, as you're seeing here, where the stairway, and you know, so like thinking of the facade as something that is ordered by the landscape, and then thinking of the other facade that's facing the parking lot as a different kind of sensibility, right? Thinking of it as a series of like maybe perforations that actually have normal windows behind it. You know, we saw this just the other day with I think Judd was showing it too. We were looking at a building, I think it was by Kundig, Osland and Kundig, and it was a perforated metal building on top of an original building. And you ended up looking through these sort of like Swiss cheese perforations. So but there were so many of the perforations that you almost didn't see them. You didn't see the perforations because you saw the view. And I think this thing would create that same notion. So I mean, I think there's ways to deal with what you're saying, with what you're doing. I would just be open to exploring that.
Right. Okay. I think what I might look at doing is bringing in that second site plan that I had.
The improved parking lot.
Yeah. I think that'll help me gain a little bit of space. especially in the back, what I would consider the backyard.
Right.
And then it'll help tie in the public, or public, kind of like the public spaces in the back, or in that radius fashion, where the more of the single residential units and then the larger complex intersect in one, and along that second level, it kind of radiused out and grew and became a larger space for gathering. So.
And then one last thing, the four units, the four brothers on the street, I feel like the flat roof as a plate is maybe potentially clumsy. Yeah. And I'm wondering if you could spend some time to explore options within that. I mean, I'm not saying throw the flat plate roof out, but I am saying that maybe there can be rooms up on one or two of those units that that's like maybe a study, and maybe there's a stairway that can get us up there. Maybe it's an exterior stairway so that there's like a small suite. There's maybe a kitchen and a bathroom and a sleeping room up there, or maybe it's like a screened porch sleeping room. I don't know, but
right.
Maybe think of the silhouette of those things as not identical and repeatable, but maybe think of them as nuanced and varied.
Right. And then start to activate the third level for some.
Yep. Because I think when you're looking at that development from the rear, particularly from the parking lot, right? That horizontal like pavilion is going to be a very it'll mutilate the sense of volume and verticality that you're really getting out of the front facades. It'll completely change that perspective, and I'd like to see that. I mean, and so maybe those third floor pop-ups actually happen closer to the north side of the volume in those townhomes to engage that sort of concourse up there. I don't know what you call that, a pavilion or esplanade, or I don't know what you call that. Ribbon of deck.
Kind of like a criticism of myself from the design was it seemed too much like a motel on the backside. So I didn't know whether you break it up by bringing the buildings in and out in some sort of not random, but whether they're concave to the street or so I just didn't know how to deal with getting that motel feel out of it. But
maybe instead of making them all identical, maybe the projection off of the north face of the unit gets smaller as you move further west. Maybe it gets shallower in depth off of the house, so that each one is different, each one is unique. So you can unitize the plans and repeat them, but then three-dimensionally they change a little bit, and maybe in the sort of floor plan, particularly on that second floor, they adjust a little bit so that you get a little bit more richness out of it.
Yep.
Maybe there's more stairways off of it too. Maybe there's a stairway to the parking lot. The stairway to the street is a really nice gesture. It's a very sort of civic thing, but maybe there's a couple of stairways that serve directly to the site. Or maybe if you go back to that site plan, maybe that knuckle space where you have the hinge, maybe that has a stairway coming into it. So there's ways to look at that. I think you're on the right track. I'm not sure which way I would go, but I'll let you figure that out.
Okay. Yeah, I think what stumped me was the question of do I want to be introverted or extroverted with my community space, given that I'm heading towards the direction of Bennett Park, but then then you have to think about public versus private. And
yeah, I guess the thing that I appreciate about Scheme 1 is the active way it tries to engage Bennett Park by creating a private version of it that also is available to those on the street. could be a butterfly garden, it could be a flower garden. There could still be a fence with a gate in it that keeps people from the neighborhood from walking into that park realm. But you can also see through it, through that 2-story sort of cleave that runs through it, that mortise that runs through it. And I think that's fairly interesting. And the stairway is kind of the reward for like slowing down when you get there and looking through it. And also maybe the backs of those sort of townhouses could be a very interesting thing for them to see as well. So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued with that model. I'm intrigued with that first model.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So keep going.
All right.
Anything else?
Nope, I think that's it.
Cool. Thanks. Who's next? Thanks, Nathan.
Thanks, Mark.
That you, Mateo?
Yep.
Cool. What do you want to talk about tonight?
Well, tonight I want to talk about case studies that I did. I started put those in presentation form, and then I want to talk about let's see what else. Some inspiration stuff,
Cool.
materials, and I kind of started over again with floor plans. This time I'm going to be a bit more focused. Trying to make them trying to simplify them. And I know you said you kind of liked the labyrinthian style.
Oh, so we were looking at something the other night, and I don't think you had popped in yet. And I said, "Oh, now I know. These remind me of the proportions of the plans that Mateo had." And I said, "I knew I'd seen this before, and now I'm sitting here, and I can't remember." Oh, it was in the lecture. So it was in the. Let me pull it up real quick, because didn't you come in just a little bit late to the lecture Monday? I think you did. Where did that go? Hold on a second. Let me show you that. Oh, for crying out loud. Yeah, this project.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that I can. Yeah, I can. So I'm going to zoom in. So when I pulled this lecture up for Monday and looked at some of these rooms, I thought, oh my gosh, these have some of the same sort of genetics, particularly, not necessarily these, but like these units, 13 and 14, 16 and 17, 18 and 19. It has sort of the same genetics of yours as well. And then this is clearly kind of a labyrinthian development, right? If you look at the site plan here. So I was really I remembered showing these slides last spring, and I'm glad I brought them up. But yeah, you can go back and take a look at the lecture later. But yeah, so let's talk about all that stuff.
Okay, so I want to start with the case studies first. Okay, why isn't it coming up? Let me share screen. Oh god, why is it? Oh, here we go. All right, so the first thing I did after the benchmark was, or after last Wednesday, I started looking for some case studies. So I've done 2 so far, and as the semester keeps going on for the next, I think 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to keep looking for case studies every week.
Great idea.
At least 1 or 2, just to kind of keep some new ideas fresh in my mind, and also review the old ones that I did. So this first one is 1653 residents in Kansas City, done by Studio Build.
Cool.
It's like way too big for I think for my project, because I want to keep it at most like 1,500 square feet for like a three
Yeah.
bed.
I mean, this is 1,000 square feet bigger than my house.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
One, two,
But they're
three. It's really like 4 floors.
yeah, it's like proportionally it's long and narrow, which is what I liked about it, because it reminds me of something that could go on on site, like on one of the lots. But there are some things that I wanted to pull from it. So some of the things I liked about it is it integrated a garage in the back that is that is below grade on the
Yeah.
front side, but it's
Yeah.
at grade on the
Yeah.
back side. So that's kind of cool. And then on the bottom, I wanted to do some just basic graphics, just analyzing it. Some things that I like. So the narrow lot and the tall gabled roof remind me of some of the Victorian references
Sure.
on site. The minimal use of like a lot of materials. So there's like 3 different materials that are used on the facade mostly, which is there's a wood siding. I'm not sure what the black material is. And then there's the orange mullions, which is metal. And then on the floor plan, I had more pictures and more floor plans, but I decided to include these. There's like, even though the entrance was slightly offset to one side, the rooms were organized like on the sides of the building, so there was like a clear pathway in the middle right here,
Yeah.
which is something I really like. So it was really simple.
Well, the door lines up
Um,
with the stair, right? And the
Right.
kitchen island. So it's biased because that's all you only need, the pantry and the bathroom, the powder room only need to be that big, right? And that works upstairs as well. So it's biased because it's sort of organized all of that infrastructure to one side. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So I really like that about it. And then I really liked how you can see it better up here in the original picture without the diagram, but how the sidewalk continues on through the house. It's just like a perfect sort of wayfinding thing, but
Sure.
it aesthetically works well with the house
Yeah.
too. So that's something that I liked about it. And other things aesthetically that I liked were the eaves, or I guess not the eaves,
The soffit.
the soffit up here.
Yeah.
I like the overhang or
Yeah. And the
over the-
material.
and the material, like that mix right there. I really like that.
Hmm.
I feel like that's probably something I could do to kind of like to add some character to the facade if I wanted to. So that was one. And the other was, so this next one, as soon as I pull it up. So this one is in Nova Scotia. And this one's interesting because there's like nothing around it, of course, being in Nova Scotia. This one was done by Omar Gandhi Architect and designed by Said. They actually took, their inspiration was taken from typologies around it, which obviously aren't seen in the picture, but I guess there's some properties around it, or near it, relatively close, that kind of share the same thing: steep roof, big windows that overlook the views, the top of the trees, and this is at the apex of a hill too. So they really wanted to emphasize just the spots where you could get views of the surrounding area, like really good views of the surrounding area. So that's why these big windows are here, and I really like the big windows in the corner. And I also thought, again, the scale and proportion was good. They could work with some of the lot sizes. Again, the front door is off center, and I really like the front door here. How let's see.
Notice how the windows also turn the corner. They also fold
Yeah.
I love the dormer too.
Yeah, the dormer's really cool. I mean, I really like this project a lot, even though it's kind of like
I've never seen it before.
it's really humble, and it's like it's not over designed, like it's not too crazy. It's like really simple, but it's on.
It's quite restrained.
Yes, restrained is the perfect word. It's
You-
quite exquisite.
Do you know the work of Brian McKay Lyons?
No, I've never heard of him before.
So his office is in Nova Scotia. I'll fire him up in a second. Keep going.
So yeah, this
I
is
like
the-
how you're interpreting these too, doing this sort of filmy overlay sheet,
Mhm.
right? And then drawing on it so we see what you're saying.
Yeah, it was just a really basic graphic, just to help myself kind of analyze the picture of what I saw. So yeah, so these are just these are the first two that I did, but I also did an inspiration board, and I started a materials board, which I can show you. But these are just things that are kind of, I'm trying to like give myself some ideas, so that way I can, like, as I'm working in plan, I can kind of think about the facade as well, and the overall form, because I tried doing like elevations and stuff, but it's like it's really hard with what I'm doing. So I think I have to adjust how I approach these. But these are some of the things that I've come to like. I really like the natural wood look. That's one thing that I want to make an emphasis is using materials that are renewable and sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of recycled stuff. And also, I think this is good to see like what colors go well together, because there's actually a pretty wide range of colors in North End in terms of material
You're right.
colors.
And your
like
plate,
a lot of,
your plate in that research talked about that.
yeah, and you know, and by doing that, I found out a lot about it. So I'm really glad that I did that, because I feel like that's a part of the project that could help my project sort of not blend in, but kind of just like enhance and complement the existing stuff that's there. That's what I want my project to do. So one thing that I really want to include into the project is vertical wood siding.
Mm-hmm.
I really think it adds like it's so simple, but it really pops, gives the building some texture even though it's flat, which is something that I really like. And also even
Well, it also gives a vertical proportion to everything too, really.
Right.
And you know that can make something that's small and modest seem more important. I think that was what was interesting about the second case study.
it's another reason why I like the second case study, was for that exact reason. And I see a lot of potential in being able to use that if I decide to. I mean, even if it's 2 stories tall, I think that'll still be tall enough. It doesn't have to necessarily be 3 and not so much these, but the other ones that I showed, they were really tall, and the vertical aspect really worked for the second one. But so there's kind of like, now that I look at this, there's kind of like a really there's sort of something really consistent about this, and I think it's like this brownish tan wood
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of prevalent. I think I really like that a lot. I mean, I didn't really notice it till now, but that's what I've been. And I was looking more at the building form, and
Right.
kind of like like another key thing is the windows. Like how do the windows work? Are they punched? Do they have more? Are they more emphatic? Like, do they come out of the building?
Mhm.
I was trying to explore that a little bit more, and I don't really know which to go with yet. I have to work on that with the form, but I kind of like it laid, like, just stay in line with the building facade, and then if something does come out, it's like the whole building itself. It's not just the window.
Right.
So these are just some things that I'm going to reference as I move on. And I really like this one right here.
I do too.
How the roof line is broken,
Yep.
and this is actually a balcony right here,
Yep.
which I think is
I love the black. My own house is black with,
Really?
yes, with white windows. So white frames,
Mhm.
right? And then we have a brand new fence, which is horizontal wood plank. So it's what the fence industry calls a California fence. So
Mhm.
it's more modern. It's a custom fence, and it's it's like a blonde cedar. So it has the contrast like that middle image.
Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah, that's.
Let
I
me
like
show
this one.
you.
Okay.
Let me screen share Brian's work for you. You're gonna probably go, oh yeah, I have seen these guys, or you're not gonna be able to say that, and you're gonna pee on your shoe. So can you see them?
Yeah. Well, that one's really cool.
Notice how the materials are all the same.
Yeah.
Wall, roof. Notice the bias of the window, right? The incision to create a soffit at the entrance. Notice the skylight / window.
Wow, that's really nice.
Notice notice the variety of window openings, and some are screened, some are punched, some are surface, right? Notice the soffit again. The gable,
Wow.
again, notched to create that L shape. It's notched. And the wall and the roof are the same material, in this case, Corten steel. That same house from a different view. Slightly different version of the bigger house that you saw, but the idea of one material as the base, and in this case it's horizontally sided, and then the bonnet, the top mass
Yeah.
is tapered to give it a silhouette against the water or the sky, and then it's all vertical wood. Oh yeah, let's go back to this. There's another picture later on, but again, just these sort of vertically proportioned things that are not symmetrical, right? It's an asymmetric composition, and then the notch. You've seen that house already. The notch, local symmetry, but not in the middle of the wall, and then this sort of distortion here, this disturbance where the outside wall runs like this, but then the glass projects out from
Yeah,
it.
it comes out. Yeah.
This is a lovely piece, just a simple box on a rocky crag. This scupper detail is kind of one of his motifs I'm seeing tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that on a few.
Access to the roof, a simple stairway. Two
That's
pavilions facing each other. Here again is that house that has the vertical and the horizontal intention. This is kind of an interesting thing. I think there's probably better images of it. Yeah, here's a bigger images of it.
Oh, you know what? I have seen that.
I'm sure you've seen this. So this is like an outdoor pavilion, and I was talking with Anna earlier tonight. So maybe the way that you like deal with the landscape is it has this sort of sculptural constructed thing that is wonderful in and of itself, but it encloses space, but it's still open and it still has program to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so his work is really strong. I'm a real big fan of his. Look at these two here. Just side by side. Little sister, big sister. Little sister has more windows. The big sister has fewer windows. Just little tensional things, to produce tension. You saw sort of this image earlier. So take a look at their work a little bit more tonight, and I think you'll appreciate that. Look at that. That's another view of that Corten steel. I don't know how this stuff weathers in Nova Scotia, but I do like it. I do like it a lot. I need to get some of his books. Anyways, we need to get him to lecture at Lawrence Tech. I think he would be, because the context is kind of similar, right? The weather context. I suspect he's been here already. Philip is probably good friends with him, for all we know, right?
Probably. It's Canadian, so probably. All right. One more thing before the plans, real quick. I just started this one, but I'm not done with it. It's kind of in progress, so I'm still looking for materials. But these are some things that I like. So I want to stay in line with the existing context, like the materials that are there, or at least like the appearance of the materials. So brick is one material I want to play with. Single well, I guess shakes.
Yes.
There are some houses with shakes in very particular spots, so I'm gonna have to be very particular about that, but I want to include that. Horizontal and vertical siding. I didn't put a picture of vertical siding, but this is actually a fiber cement board.
Yeah.
Made by was it Hardy? It's a Hardy panel.
Plank. Yeah.
Yeah, which I've been told by my coworkers is a good material to use for sustainable design. So so that's for siding, and then roofing. I'm thinking about metal roofing sparsely, and then there's a rubber tile that's made from recycled tires that I think is really cool, and that's what these two pictures are, just little different applications. So I'm starting to think about materials too. So aesthetics, materials, case studies, the proportions, kind of like how they're set up, their context, how the designer thought about layout in the building and outside too. So
Good.
I'm starting to think about that because I absolutely need to start getting into building form. Like yesterday I should have, but I'm still stuck on the same old stuff. But I think now after the benchmark and after I've had some time to think about it, I think one thing that I made a really big mistake on was I looked at the whole site as the whole site. I looked at the 4 different types as like one big thing, and it was kind of dumb because I said there were 4 different types, but I treated them all the same. But they're all incredibly different, and because they're all incredibly different, it should mean that each one is an incredibly different, or I should say has an incredibly different design response.
Right.
So
right.
I think what I'm going to do until the next
I think that's
bench,
I think that's sensitive of you to. So I appreciate that you see that and you admit that. I like that about you, and I don't. It's not too late. As I think it's an important thing that you notice the virtue of the uniqueness in each of those little enclaves, and begin to respond and work towards that. And I think you can maybe brand each neighborhood with a simple word or phrase to help build that momentum for you, the creative momentum.
Yeah, that's also a good point. Yeah, because each one is like, I mean, there's like, I think the first one, the most northern street, Smith, has like no buildings on the one northern half, and on the bottom half there's I think a total of 4 on that side of the street. So it's totally different than Bethune or the other street was, I can't remember the name of it right now, but they're totally different. Yeah, Custer, they're totally different. So I'm gonna have to like have a unique design response to each one, and that's where I think I messed up, because each in the file, each one was copied and pasted in whatever spot that I thought could fit, but it didn't fit. So each design is going to have to fit into the lot, which is going to change the overall layout of the plans, the building form, all of that. So I think what I want at the end is I want each to speak to its immediate context, but as a whole be cohesive, or at least look cohesive enough to say, yeah, that's in North End, and then you go a block later, say, yeah, that looks like something in North End too.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm going for. But in order to do that, I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take just kind of step back and then take a closer look at each block and focus on that block, design that block fully, and
Very
then move on to
interesting.
the next one.
Very
Move on to
interesting.
the next one. So I think, so for the next, let's see, for the next week and a half, that's what I'm going to tackle the most. I'm going to look at case studies and then tackle these houses, or I'm sorry, these homes, but look at it with a focused appearance, and then just work on the landscaping. Come up with a concept of the landscaping, and then like have that be different, but have it be kind of like have it come from the same. It's like milk from the same cow, but it just looks a little different.
Sure.
So if you can see the Revit model, I think
I can.
Okay. So right now I'm focusing on the floor plans. On the first floor, so I think the biggest adjustment that I've made is instead of having, and these aren't labeled, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of talking here. But I think the biggest thing is that the motion to change how the floor works, and then also change how the second floor works. So right now the first floor has 4 units instead of 2, and then the top will have either 3 or 4. And how this is going to work out is, so this is going to be a 3-car garage. So it's still the same. It's in the back. It's this is supposed to be the driveway right here. So you
Gotcha.
come in from the street, you pull up in here, boom, garage. The difference is from last time is there's now a smaller 1-bedroom right here, right next to the garage. So this is like 1 bay of housing, and then right next to the garage is a single bay of another 2-bedroom house right here. So now instead of it being a really thin-shaped L with weird angles and
Right.
labyrinthine floor plan, it's basically 2 bars, but it's
Gotcha.
going to look like 1. And how this works is you go into your garage, if you park in the garage, and you either go through 1 or 2 doors. You go here or you go here, and then this leads into a hallway, which leads into the beginning of this hallway, which goes onto the bedrooms, a master bath, a den, half bath, and this is the laundry room, though I think I'm going to switch this in the bathroom because
Yeah.
the bathroom should be more accessible directly into the living, dining, and kitchen area. Right now, this is flipped on the hinge that is the circulation to the top. So this is from one of the first floor plans that I did that I'm going to bring back because I think it worked, because it allowed a break in the building, and that break in the building was I think passerbys or people visiting could again see this break and know that this is where they're supposed to go if they're going up top, and they could still see the front door from the street. So I think this is a lot more simple right now. And let's see if I can zoom out. I don't know how to zoom out without my mouse.
So the unit off of the garage is actually could be part of one family, or it could be its own unit.
This one?
Yeah, because it doesn't have a kitchen, so it really can't be its own unit, correct?
So I didn't draw the kitchen in, but the kitchen one have to go right here.
Yeah, so that is its own unit.
Yeah, it would be its own unit. Yeah,
Okay.
A very
Now
small one.
I'm good
This
with
is
that.
where it would be at.
Yeah. Okay. I like
Yeah,
that.
Okay. And this I can't zoom in. I would zoom out. I'm sorry. Do that. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is currently on the short block, which is, so this is Bethune and this is Custer right here.
Yeah.
So this is Muffy over here.
Yeah.
And, oh, I know what's missing. I have, oh boy. I need to take another river course, I think, at school. I forgot to use this. Okay. Boom. Okay. So now I zoom in. Okay. So too close. All right. So this is Bethune up here. This is
Custer.
Custer. And right now this is situated in between two houses.
Yeah,
One
I see
here
that.
and then one here. So I'm trying to again minimize how much pavement is on the site. And one thing that I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to only allow like these driveways to go to places with alleys, like say this street. I'm going to have to say, okay, up until here, this is an access to the alley in the middle of the street, but it's nowhere else. So like, because before I had accesses to the alley like everywhere, every single
I remember.
two houses, which was obnoxious. So I think I'm gonna have to say, every so many feet, there's gonna have to be an alley access from the street on both sides, and then I think that'll really minimize the impact of the pavement. And then the alley is gonna have to be a lot smaller. I think can maybe handle two cars like really close side by side, so maybe 12, 13 feet. And I'm still gonna work with the plan or the idea that this whole or not really the whole backyard, but the majority of the backyard is going to be where the crops are grown. And I also, on top of everything that I just said, I have to do research into like what kind of fruits and vegetables or what kind of herbs can be grown, and like what sizes, what's the idea of how much land do tomatoes need? How much land do pickles need, or etc.
You could ask our friend Tyson. It's just that you probably don't have that much time.
Right. I would need to dedicate like a week to that.
He grows a lot of okra there because that community likes okra. It grows very quickly and prodigiously. It just needs a little bit of maintenance every day.
Yeah. That's the other thing is, again,
and my idea, low water, right?
Right. Which also brings me to another point, which is water retention on site. Is there a way, and I know it's kind of a dumb question, I think, but is there an easy way to, I guess everything I just said, is there a easy way, or do I need to even show this, like a way to capture water, store it, and then use it for like irrigation system? Like, is that too technical? Is that too much for this project?
So do you know the project that Tad is doing for the Green Garage people over on Alexandrine and Cass, right next to Will Leather Goods?
No, I don't. I'm not familiar with that.
So he did, it's the Elmore, the apartment building.
Okay.
So he renovated the Elmore, and he has these vertical, like 15-foot tall metal vessels that collect storm water from the building, and he then lets it discharge into the new garden that he's created.
Mm-hmm.
You should take a look at it. Can you fire up maybe Google Maps?
Yeah, sure. All right.
And go to Alexandrine and 3rd. He's created a new landscape on that corner that is both environmental, sustainable, and sustainable, but also it's educational, and it's become an attraction. It's under construction still. But I think it'll be done by the end of either this year or early next. So it's up near, there's Alexandrine. Go left. And it is right there. So, no, it's further over. You see where all the blue containers
Oh,
are?
gotcha.
So the Elmore is that building that has the tag on it.
Okay.
There, so leave it right there. So this is a construction site photo right now, but you see where it says Elmore. So Tad
Yep.
expanded that apartment building with a link at every floor. So he did a stairway and an elevator, and that new addition to the west is the main entrance, but it's also the new vertical core. So now he has a fire stair and an elevator, and the building's accessible. Then to the far left, you see the frame of a building getting built there on the lower left. Yeah, that is actually like an indoor room. It's a like a conference room.
Okay.
It's a simple building that's as big as a conference table. And then you see to the far right, just directly opposite that conical roof, that is
Yep.
like I think it's some sort of like feed silo, like a 1.5, 2-story silo. So he's creating this sort of environmental like landscape here. Maybe go to Street View and you'll see a better picture of it all. It's a really provocative, I think Tad's the best guy in town right now doing some of the most interesting work. That's Will Leathergoods.
Oh, wow.
So there it is.
It's a beautiful building.
It's a gorgeous building, and the apartments inside are to die for.
Wow.
So the blue bar that you see beyond, that's actually a new building going on. And you see the tower, the 2-story cylinder on the Elmore. It's reflecting a little light.
Oh, yeah, right here. Yeah.
That's the rainwater management system. Now, is it going to have enough head pressure to irrigate? I doubt it, but maybe with a pump system, right? It can do that. And then the little conference pavilion is that little clay tile thing to the left with the gable, the white gable. And it has its own
that's
hi-hat
nice.
on it.
Yeah.
It's really a pretty nice property.
Oh, this is very, very, very nice. Manicured. Very well kept. This is the addition you were referring to.
Yeah, you can see that's the stair tower and the elevator, right? And it just sort of goes away. He clads it in like a split face CMU and then like metal shingles.
Wow. This is nice.
Yeah.
I was just down here. I'm surprised I must have not been paying attention. I didn't see this. You gotta pay more attention, I guess.
That's all I ever do. Oh yeah, then the roof, right? Then the
Oh,
roof
yeah,
has
check
these
that out.
additions on it. You probably see that you probably saw that today and didn't think anything of it, but there's like 2 apartments up there. And that notch is like the exterior, it's an exterior hallway that leads you to the roof from the apartments. Yeah, see the rainwater scupper?
Yep,
It
right here.
discharges right into it. So it's taking all of that roof water and conducting it into a single source.
Okay.
He's on the faculty at UDM.
Okay.
He is
I probably have
one
some friends
tough
that know him.
architecture critic too. He is hard. He's hard on students, and he gets really good work out of them. He's a bright guy. He was one of my former students.
Of course he was, Mark.
No, I didn't teach him anything. He just happened to be in my lecture class, but that was back in '99. But now he went on to Cranbrook after that and at UDM, and then he's just, he did Slows to Go
He did.
on Cass.
Yeah.
He did Astro Coffee on
I
Michigan.
love Astro. Yeah.
I just
didn't know he
had
did that.
coffee with Sarah the other day. from Nomas. She went to California with you guys.
Sarah
Al-Sawafi?
Al-Sawafi?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I had coffee with her.
Cool.
Yeah, and so he did that. Tad did that space,
Mhm.
and he's done. What else has he done? Oh, Pony Ride. He did Pony Ride.
Oh, I did Pony Ride too. Wow. Pony Ride's cool too.
Yeah, he's good. He's very, very good. So yeah, I think Sarah's well. I think she's hoping to go to grad school.
Mhm.
So I was talking to her about that.
Yeah, she was thinking about going to grad school in New York first. At I can't remember the name of the school. It's very,
Columbia.
very prestigious.
Yeah, Columbia.
Oh, Columbia. Yeah, right. And then we have a mutual friend that was telling me how she's thinking about going to U of M now for grad school.
Yeah, she told me that
since
too.
it's in the area. Not LTU though. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah, you know who else? Maybe Samantha Doherty. She's sort of thinking of going somewhere else too. I welcome that. I did the same thing after I had my undergraduate education. I felt like I needed a lot more, and I needed it quick. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of needed a protein and infusion. Not that I was undernourished at Lawrence Tech. It's just that I felt like I needed more, and I also was at that moment convinced, because we didn't even have a grad program back then. So I was convinced that I needed to go, I literally had to go elsewhere, and I needed it at like a high concentration. So I took a 2-year grad program at Cincinnati, at the University of Cincinnati, where we're going to go. And that was, I think, really beneficial to me. But we have such a big faculty now. We have a big program that, I think the idea of staying on at Lawrence Tech is actually a really, really good idea. I might not have said that 10 years ago, but our grad program has just gotten really, really strong. It's really, really good. And now with Carl there, I just have a feeling we're gonna have some amazing things happening.
Yeah. I really hope so too. He seems really interested in student engagement and diversity, like diversifying LTU, which is
Totally
he's very
cool.
passionate about that one.
Yeah, that's totally cool. Well, that's right up your alley. That's something you're passionate about, because that's why you're in Nomas, right? And
yeah, that's right.
so,
Yeah.
Cool. Well, what else do we want to go over?
That's all I had.
Cool.
I also wanted to say that after reading all of the feedback from Benchmark, I really don't want to miss any more classes. I know I shouldn't. I can't anymore. But I feel like, no, honestly, I feel like such an a-hole for missing all those classes. Like, it was like 4 classes, and that's bad. That's brutal. Like, I need to be better than that, and I will be better than that. I'm serious. Like, honestly, like your I thought your critique of my work was like spot on. I couldn't have said it better than myself. And yeah, so I'm working hard on this. So I just gotta.
Then it was all worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's worth it. I just gotta get this project rolling. But I think I'm more clear on my direction now.
Good.
So
I think so too. And look, I would like nothing more than to have your undivided attention for the whole semester. Like Mariah stopped working this semester so that she could focus on school, and that became kind of really, really important to her. So I want to make sure that she gets the most out of me and that she gets the most out of this class, given that she's all in, right? You know what I mean? You have committed to doing these wonderful, important extracurricular things that align with something very deep to your core, right? This is a very important organization, and I actually give your organization money. That's how important it is to you. That's why it's important to me. So I make contributions. Karen knows that. I make contributions every year. And I mean, it's not a lot, and you're not going to be able to buy a car with it, but it helps in some small way, and I know Tiffany appreciates it. So that's important. But I also appreciate that you're trying to sort of balance work and studio and this commitment, and that's really, really hard to do. And so I need to be a little bit flexible. If you were doing like one more thing, that might have been something too much for the studio to take. And I think the trip really did take a lot of air out of the sail for you, just because you weren't able to be in studio, and the time zone and the technology and the schedule out there. I think that probably contributed to it. But the weather changed, right? You're not there anymore, and now you're back on campus, and you can focus now for the rest of the term.
That's right. I don't have any commitments to NOMAS anymore, except for a board meeting that I have next Wednesday. But that's that's not a big deal.
Cool.
So yeah, it's basically just work and studio now. I mean, I have one other class, but that doesn't need a whole lot of my time.
Good.
Maybe 2 or 3 hours a week.
Who are you working with at work?
So right now I'm working on a hotel with Alexis, who I think you said you met.
I know Alexis.
With new guy who you know.
You met Brandon?
Brandon Markham, that's right. Yeah. And so he's a really nice guy. He's very intelligent. He's doing sections right now for us, and he's so incredibly technical. Like, these sections are like way too technical. Like, they're like way too technical for what we're doing right now. They just need to be simple. And he's drawing the molding, and I think he even drew caulk in one. I'm like, dude, seriously? Like, I don't know. He's putting in work too. Like, I'm working with him. He's a good guy. He said he knew you.
He was a student of mine, I think 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yep.
And then Alexis was not a student of mine, but I had coffee with her a month ago, and we try to stay in touch every now and again. She's just amazing. She was actually one of the best students I ever saw at UDM. So she's really, really good. Tell her I said hi.
I will. I'll see her tomorrow.
Cool. Does Dan Snyder go to your office, or does he go downtown?
He's occasionally in our office. He comes at least once a week.
Uh-huh.
He hasn't been there this week yet, so he'll probably be there probably tomorrow. Usually doesn't come in on Fridays, but yeah.
Ask him how he did in the marathon.
Oh, he was just talking about that. I don't know how he did, but he was talking about running it again next year, I think is what he was talking about.
He ran 2 marathons this year.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Do you know Kurt Nemeth?
I do not.
Kurt Nemeth? Oh, okay. He was telling me something about riding a bike at 11,000 feet somewhere, and then bike. So he took a bus, I guess, up to 10,000 feet. Started riding up. He rode in 1 mile 1,000 feet up, and then rode all the way back down. So we have some gladiators at work. Let me tell you.
Gladiators. That's the word for it.
Yeah. Yeah, bear hunters. It's ridiculous.
Which is so cool about Dan, because he was kind of a doughboy when I worked with him. He would drink. I'm not making any of this up. He would drink about 16 Pepsis a day. I can't even believe he still has his teeth. He drank 16 Pepsis a day.
Wow.
He literally brought in like 2 8-packs.
Unbelievable.
And all you'd hear is the, started at like 8 o'clock. I think he drove in from Northville, and he'd already had one, and he had to rush to the bathroom to pee because he'd already had like 16 ounces. And then he'd eat Hot Pockets for lunch every day.
Oh my God.
Which are like basically just Pop-Tarts that, you know, you throw in the microwave, and they have spaghetti and cheese on them. And he'd always, I remember this now, he'd always burn his mouth. He'd always bite into this thing, and he's like, what the fuck? You know, he'd be just like, it's just like, or, you know, then you do that noise that you make when you, and then you hear him like
exactly what you mean.
take a tug on the Pepsi, and he's like, oh God, that was hot. It's like, it's tomato sauce. It heats up faster than anything. And he'd walk around like a dog that's been eating peanut butter because he's scalded
Oh my god.
the
that's
roof
so
of his
funny.
mouth or his tongue. He was hysterical. Good architect, really good architect. Tell him I said hi.
I will also tell him you said hi.
Have a good week.
All right, you too, Mark.
Take care.
Thanks.
Zach, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you.
All right. So since we talked last week, I've been working on some more case study stuff, trying to get a little bit more in depth on the modules within the modules,
Good.
figuring out the construction process, the structure, how all that works and goes together. And I found the New York City Emergency Housing, the firm that did that, has done quite a bit of modular design stuff.
Who is it? Can you pull them up?
Yeah, I have it. Just pull up the screen share real quick. They are Garrison Architects.
Garrison. I feel like I know that name.
Show up.
Yeah.
So this is the one that we looked at,
Yeah.
but then they have a
Oh.
more.
Wow, I like that.
Yeah, this was pretty cool.
Oh, it's in color.
Yeah, when you click on them, it takes you to the color, and some of them have
That's a nice detail. Ooh, that's neat.
some floor plans and things within them.
You know what? Nathan needs to see this firm too. I love the stairway. How the stairway, well, I love the baluster,
Mhm.
right? The punched openings, but I also love how the stair is also kind of a couch that you can sit on,
Just kind of flows into the seating area.
right? It just sort of the tread becomes a seat.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So are these like shipping containers here? What is these?
I'm not sure what these ones are. I did find some information that they partnered with a company called Coleman, Kullman, and they have a particular frame system that they actually use. That might kind of start to. But they have a frame system structure that they use specifically for these, allows them to stack, made together side to side.
So it's a
and-
structural frame?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. And they just kind of like fuse them together to make the length they need for the program.
Right. So let's see if I can find. I think there was one that showed. This one here. This one's actually in Albion, Michigan.
Oh, we can go see this. This is a private residence?
It is. It's a cottage on a boarding house or boarding school, and it's meant for when parents come to visit their children.
Mm-hmm.
The child can have one side, and I thought they had a couple photos of. Yeah, there's one.
There's the frame.
Right. And it's modeled after a type of truss. And I know it started with a V. And it was a long name. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Uh-huh.
But it was basically just like a post and beam system, and it transferred all the loads to the endpoints.
Right.
So that when they stack these, that everything would be coming down on on the ends of the structure. None of it actually would. So the top floor, none of it would bear across the middle section of the frame, which allows them to do.
Verindale.
That's it.
Yeah, the Verindale Truss. And it's named after a guy.
Okay. But it allows them to do some large cantilevers and things with it.
Wow.
Then I was also able to find a document that Garrison and Coleman has put together that shows kind of how everything goes together from the design aspect to the construction portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
It included CAD details and everything of
Thank you.
how all these go together.
And what is that? Is that like a PDF?
Yeah.
Excellent. I love this floor plan. I love how the table is an extension of the void space.
Mhm.
And God, you never think to sit there. But that's perfect.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. A neat cottage.
We have to go see this.
Albion's down by the state line, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's south of Jackson.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, middle of the state, but south.
Right.
The college town. So that's the Kobe Cottage.
Yes.
So what are you thinking? Are you thinking that you're going to take this image, this truss, and the ability to make it bowed like this, or like a railroad car, like in the earlier case study, and inherit that and then deploy it to suit your program, your sites, your density ambitions, and skin it the way you see fit, or stack it and skin it the way you see fit? What do you? I mean, this is really cool. This is really great that you found all of this, and I just want to get a sense from you, Zach, how you're going to sort of embrace it, how you're going to sort of enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the basic principle of this is how it goes together. There's kind of no sense in reinventing the wheel.
I agree.
And the information from the frame manufacturer said that basically they can do any kind of shape
In plan.
Yeah. Arcs, curves, any of that stuff. So there's a lot of possibilities with the frame system.
So can we go back to your site plan? I'm down with this. I'm comfortable with this. But what I want to know is how you plan to explore it. So like, I could see you create a community of these trailer, right?
Mhm.
Like a trailer park. That could happen, and that could be a reasonable thing. But I'm wondering if there's ways that you can look at this truss box, if you will, as a way to do additions to things. Had that ever occurred to you? Like I have a house and I want to create something that's contrasting to it. You were hanging around earlier today, right?
Mhm.
So you saw the Co-op Himmelblau piece that I was showing Anna?
I may have stepped out of the room for that one.
So let me pull that up. Oh, I don't want to go there. I want to go to there. So with her tonight, I'm going to screen share. We were talking about this image as a way of maybe thinking of something she was doing somewhere else on her site as a way of extending it to the existing house. Can you see that? To add on to it. So this is a really old piece from like the early 90s that kind of created this glass and steel, like it's actually a room. You can actually, like that's the room that it's created, right? This sort of conference room. Here's another shot of it here. But I mean, you get it's pretty clear, right? It's like this thing that's like a mollusk. It's sort of glommed onto an existing kind of tried and true historic building, and it's created this sort of tensional condition. Another piece by them in Akron, Ohio, just down the road, is this addition to a museum. And I got to tell you, that's a huge ass cantilever there, right? That's really enormous. That's unlike anything we've ever seen before. There it is from the street.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, totally crazy. I want to go see that. I've been dying to see that for 5 years. I just can't get down there. So let's go back to your site plan. I'll stop sharing this thing and you can pull that back up.
All right.
So you actually you've chosen a site where you don't have anything. You've circumscribed the existing apartment building on Brush, so you've chosen not to engage that, as I recall.
Yeah. And part of the discussion that we had during that was
Maybe using it or not.
right.
Yeah, I still feel like you should.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was looking at doing, was almost extending the mixed use area all the way along Brush,
Yeah,
and leaving an alley cut through there still. So it basically would become two separate buildings, or potentially just a drive under.
yeah, like a portal.
Yeah. And then at that point, I think it goes down to having townhouses on the street side and alley houses on the alley side, and it would become three different,
products,
right?
plus the renovation, 4.
Right.
So are they all this Beer truss frame?
All of my
Is all of this new product except the renovation?
yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking, is that, or whatever structural system ends up working out for it. But that whole modular system would happen throughout all of the buildings.
Okay, so
That's kind of the strongest way to go about it. I think if I go about doing it modular in one building and stick framing the others, that kind of loses.
it dilutes the research.
Yeah. So I think
So Zach, so let's talk a little bit about. So I think I'm comfortable. I could be even comfortable leaving the existing building out of the conversation of the site, right? Leaving it off the site, leaving it out of your scope.
Mhm.
Let me just say this, right? Alley houses, row houses, the mixed use building on Brush, right? It's you're putting in all that stuff that we did at Brush Park in both of our projects, right? I'm not saying it's boring. I'm not yawning. I'm not saying that, because we did it, right?
Right.
And it's a reasonable thing to do, and it gets you lots of units per acre. Like, you're doing all of the responsible things that you need to do.
Mhm.
Your focus is not on urban design, it seems to me. Your focus is not on, like, I don't want to say this the wrong way, but the context in a kind of architectural way.
Mhm.
your focus, correct me if I'm wrong, is on the sort of modular, unitized strategy for providing a residential product that thinks of construction and technology in a somewhat progressive way that puts the burden on you, Zach, to think things through like cost, deliverability, consistency or variation, infrastructure, skin, right? Sustainability, like mechanical systems, like all the, can these things actually operate off the grid, or can they have low impact on the grid? All of, it seems to me, Zach, that that's what you're focusing on. That's what you're kind of interested in. Am I close?
Yeah, I think that's spot on.
Okay.
More of the process.
Yes. So it seems to me that, okay, so it seems to me that the glamour is not in the context drawings or in the site drawings. You know, it's not in the hook that you're trying to, like, that I'm trying to get out of everyone else. Seems like your hook, right, is in doing this modular housing that Garrison and Kuhlman are doing, as well as maybe even better than they do it. Because, you know, at the end of it all, as you heard me say the other day when you showed me the emergency housing, I'm like, that place is bigger than my house, and
Yeah.
that's nicer than your home and my home. And then I just saw this cottage in Albion, and I'm like, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
That is like an award-winning high-end home, and it doesn't look like it does not look like the trailer, which is the bones of that thing, right? So better than Kuhlman and Garrison does not mean better finishes. It means, I think, executing the delivery, the fabrication, the delivery, the installation, and the design of these things for this demographic, for this community, for these price points, and still dealing with all of the things that Garrison and Kuhlman had to do, short of building one of these things in a shop. Although I think you were thinking of, you know, trying to model something like that in your father-in-law's shop, or thinking of it at a larger scale, right? And so is my interpretation of your agenda still pretty close?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that this whole modularity and prefab system, all of those examples that were on Garrison's site, while they use that, like you said, they are a higher end, and
They're over the top. They're
fucking
beautiful.
outrageous.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
So how does all of that technology come into something that can be affordable housing without looking like just a trailer?
Yeah, and so it may be size, right? It may you may need to contract the size and reduce the program and the features, but I think it's also skin. It's also windows and doors. It's also joining several together, right? Because that's not something they seem to do to the extent that you're trying to do it, right? So I think just sort of peeling this onion back a little bit, trying to think how you will deal with all those pesky details in the next 6 weeks. That's in your wheelhouse, it seems to me.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay.
And so to get into that, I don't know if I can switch. Did that change?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, you changed it.
So I've just kind of started to push that further, is working on these base modules to go within.
Yeah,
the
like
larger unit.
like we saw in that lecture the other night, everything was like on an 8-foot module. A kitchen could work in that module, a bedroom could work on that module, and if a living room didn't, then it was 2 8s, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's what you're trying to do here is understand like the most basic increment.
Yeah. And I've been kind of working with 8, 10,
I see that now.
somewhere in that range. And then, so what I'm trying to do is develop these sizes and then take these into the
Into that
3D.
frame, into that steel frame.
Well, yeah, into that steel frame, but model these, actually make the physical blocks with these to start piecing those together to see how they might fit within
Lovely.
that frame. And it seems like that frame isn't, the frame is the frame, but it's not set in a size. Like the shipping container is set
Yeah.
at the size where the frame is, it said the typical is 13 feet and an oversized is 16 feet. So they can make them in different variables, but figuring out which size would work.
Architecturally.
Yeah. And,
Uh-huh.
and being able to take, if it's a 12 or 13-foot wide frame, how can that one size be repeated throughout all of the different building types on the site? Or, at most 2 frame sizes, because I just think that repetition is the key to being economical with this.
Yeah.
And so what module sizes of these small interior modules would fit into one frame and work for everything?
Understood. So you're doing something that I think you need to do in order to evaluate that dimensional sort of appropriateness. I'm my instinct, Zach, is that 10 is that number. But like for the living room, for the closet, for the garage, you have to drop that furniture into those spaces as well, like you did in the kitchen and the bedroom, to show us that a couch and an ottoman or a couch and 2 side tables actually fits. Right. And the 5x5 closet holds this many garments, for example, something you can get out of Graphic Standards. So you populate those diagrams into a place where you populate them with the stuff that actually is performing in those rooms to validate to the viewer. I think a sheet that just shows all of these rooms, that shows these variables, would be really, really interesting. And you can draw a box, like a pink box around the 10-foot number, because it like succeeds at working for the most kinds of rooms: kitchen, dining, bedroom, living, right? You can show the sort of conclusion that you've made that's informing the research that's going to inform the way that Vierendeel truss box is going to be made, that box truss.
Right.
So that's maybe a way of moving this research forward.
And to a point, almost even that 10-foot dimension becomes broken down to a 5-foot,
Well, sure.
where there's the 5x5 closet. Basically, that square is fitting 4 times into the 10x10 kitchen or into the living room. So
exactly.
It breaks into that smaller. They almost remind me of in like elementary and middle school when we had those little cubes.
Sure.
The counting cubes.
So are you thinking that these are going to stack to get the density that you need?
Yes.
So do you need townhomes, or is there a family living above a family, or 3 families living vertically in these things? Let's go back to the site plan for a second. Unless you had something else you wanted to show me?
Nope.
Because I guess you have to do supported stuff everywhere because you're parking above the vehicles in the alley houses. So like these types, right? The townhome, the alley house, the apartment, these are all kind of like clear missing middle types.
Mm-hmm.
And you've drawn them to sort of work with, let's just say, missing middle dimensions. But have you thought of like bringing the truss box into the site plan and deploying that and configuring that on the site plan? Is that the next step?
I think that's the next step.
Once you go through this kind of taxonomy of rooms
Yeah.
and identify the room dimensions that operate like the most responsively to all of the needs that you have, then is it to like configure and illustrate those in the site plan?
And I think it's, yeah, that and figuring out, once I start actually piecing blocks together, seeing what kind of unit shapes best fit together and being able to plug those into the site as well.
My hunch is that you might have fewer units,
Mhm.
but my hunch is that it'll be pretty close.
I think right now these townhomes are 22 feet wide, 20 or 22, and the alley homes are the same width.
Yeah.
They're a square unit. And then I was working off of a 20-foot grid in the mixed use area too. So I think that's
that increment of 10.
yeah. So it kind of starts to work out that way already.
Well, before I guessed that you should like draw the box truss on the site plan, what were you thinking you'd do next? What were you going to do this weekend on this to move this project forward?
This weekend was going to be trying to figure out to build those physical blocks,
Right.
putting them together, doing that whole process with all the iterations, figuring out what potential unit layouts there might be,
Right.
and plugging those. If I find 3 or 4 different unit layouts, plugging those within and seeing how those could repeat to fit onto the site.
I think you also need to, good. So I think you also need to, like at the same time, because that's really how we work as architects anyways. We do a whole bunch of things at the same time, simultaneously, right? Is the research.
Mm-hmm.
Can we go back to Garrison for a second? And I want to go back there because like their materials, they're like, we noticed that they were kind of high end, but what if the materials could be like Home Depot materials?
Right.
What if the materials could be like insulated corrugated metal siding, right? Or asphalt shingles to get you this look on the Kobe cottage, but
Right.
in asphalt. Or what if it was, have you ever used the product called Trespa?
No.
Or like polycarbonate panels?
Not that I can recall.
So type in another tab, Trespa, and maybe type in Will Alsop, Trespa, and then Will Alsop, Willalsop, and go to images. So that image on the left, well, all of those images, that's all Trespa.
Okay.
Let that generate. See the colors?
Mm-hmm.
Those are all individual panels. Now go to Trespa and their page. Yeah, just go to their website there. So this is like a synthetic plastic laminate that can be for interior and exterior applications.
Okay.
And it can look like wood, it can look like metal, it can look like plastic, right? That, like in the case of the Alsop. So it's a fairly hearty and durable, color fast panel. And I think some of the stuff that you saw in Garrison on the Kobe house might have been in this sort of palette. Now open another tab and type in insulated polycarbonate sheeting or panels. Yeah. So like, look at an image, yeah, or just like, I want you to look at the cross section of it. So get a good image. Yeah. See that?
Okay. Yeah.
So you're seeing it as a roof application, but these are like a plasticine, they're polycarbonate, but they have an R value. They have an insulative capacity. They are translucent, and they let lots of light in, but they keep the warmth in and the cold out. I wasn't proposing in this conversation to use it as a roof thing. I was considering it as like a wall material, right? It comes in like modules of like 4x10 or 4x20 in length. Obviously, the material wants to work with your frame, but it can come in different thicknesses to get you the U value that you need. I used it on Plum Market in Ann Arbor, for example, and it's a tremendous product. So those are kind of like high design ideas that have like low brow, right? You know what I mean by that? Like low brow, blue collar side sort of aesthetic sensibility to them, right? They're not hoity toity. They're off the shelf. They're ready and, stocked and ready to go kind of thing.
Yep.
Same with like corrugated metal siding. So those are sort of ways to go. But did we talk about Rural Studio a couple of weeks ago? Did I walk you through that? So type in Rural Studio now in another tab.
All right.
My friend started this architecture program at Auburn University. He's passed on, unfortunately. There you go. And just go to images.
That was the images.
You got it spelled right. And so like go to the fourth image and the fifth image. Go to the fifth image now. Those are logs.
Okay.
Right? You see where I'm going?
Right. Yeah, just basic.
Found materials. Let's scroll down. I want to see more pictures. I want you to see. Okay, so go to the chapel that you see in the middle picture there, the A-frame.
Right.
Yep. Those are tires with like a mud daubing on them, right?
Yep.
Like a parging. Keep going. I want to show you, okay, keep going down. Oh, so the first, the blue image under the red, under that, the blue image underneath that.
There we go.
Those are windshields.
Oh my God.
Those are car and truck windshields. Do you see where I'm taking this now?
Yeah.
Okay, go on to keep going, and go to oh, okay. Go to the image, fourth image on the top. It's a window. Yeah, you know what those are?
We talk about the window or the siding?
The
Cladding.
wall. It's carpet tile. The house is made of stacked carpet tile.
Oh,
So it's like 2 by 2, right? And so the
Stacked up.
wall is 2 foot thick. You follow what I'm saying?
pretty much anything they can find and making stuff out of it.
Exactly. Go to, keep going down. Okay, hold on a second. So keep going. It's a house that has metal. There's that second picture is the carpet house, the carpet tile house again. Shoot, I'm not seeing it. So there's one house that they did that uses all okay, so this is the second picture. Yeah, the roof of the curved stone thing. Can you maybe go visit the page that this is on? Is street signs, like highway signs, like oh shoot, do they have an inside shot of it? So what's the name of that project? Is that the Hunter House? That's not it. No. Well, anyways, you get the idea, right? That instead of like one membrane, it's actually on a curving structural sort of frame. It's a series of overlaid stop signs, yield signs, one-way signs, right? Let's see if you can find it in here. Go to the second picture right there where your cursor is. That's it.
Okay, yep.
You see that? You have a structural frame, you have purlins, and then the stop signs are, you can see them. You can see the stop sign. You can see the highway signs, Highway 25, right?
Right.
So here's where I'm taking this conversation. I think you know, right? That in this neighborhood, there's trash. There's stuff that had value that has lost its value. And that maybe, and that's not just unique to North End, right? The issues that North End faces are issues that you'll find in your community, right? So maybe the goal would be to revisit the trash and find a way to dignify it by giving it a new role. And it gets dignified because it's serving a noble role, like creating architecture, keeping the elements out, right? Providing shade. You know, maybe this is a room that didn't need like rainwater to stay out. I mean, this is maybe kind of like, I don't know. You know, I don't know enough about this particular program. Maybe this was like their pantry or something like that. You know what I mean? Because these are people that that don't even have. These are people an hour from the University of Alabama. You know, Nick Saban country. You know, Paul Feinbaum country, and these people don't even have running water, sewers, and electricity. And this is what Mockbee was so upset about. This is why he did this program called Rural Studio, where he brought architecture students to the Deep South, to Hale County, the country's poorest county and did these architecture projects there, and did them on a shoestring, did them by finding materials that nobody else saw worth or value in, and found new ways to use them, and created these beautiful, beautiful, award-winning buildings out of them.
Mhm.
So the Rural Studio is now like, it's one of the most desirable places to go travel to. And it's a program that the university, that Auburn University is like, it has students clamoring to go there now because they want to be part of this larger social responsibility, you know, agenda, right? Anyways, so it doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to be the copper, welded copper siding that you saw on the Garrison stuff, although that's beautiful. But it could be Galvalume, right? Right? The stuff we make ducks out of. Like thinking of it that way, trying to step it down a notch in hoity-toity quality. It doesn't have to be wood siding. It could be corrugated siding. It could be it could be plastic instead of glass, right? Thinking of alternatives, and maybe that's where you try to flex, you know, Zach, some creative muscle in this project, not just in the technology and the technical manifestation of these ideas, which I think is really what you're trying to do, but maybe some muscle flexing in the creative alternatives for the skin that give them identity, maybe give them a little whimsy, maybe give them a little people looking at them saying, God, we could do this. This is a really great idea. You know, we could do this everywhere. So that might be worth looking at. You know, I can't tell you how much stuff we throw out every week, and if we just kept it, I bet we could end up with an arsenal of materials that could be reused for architecture. It raises all sorts of questions, like how do you nail and attach them together? Those are questions we can solve, right? Are they mechanically fastened? Are they welded? Are they friction fit? Are they wet jointed? You know, are they sealant? You know, construction adhesive? Who knows? I don't know those things. We can solve those things as we get to them. But just revisiting the question of materiality from kind of the lowbrow perspective could be very interesting. You know, when I showed you Frank Gehry's house early in the semester, you know, I told you, right, the kitchen had the addition over the asphalt driveway.
Right.
He built the house right on the driveway. That was the kitchen floor. That was appalling to people in 1978, you know? The exposed wood studs, the exposed sheathing, that was appalling to people. Now it's kind of like, you know, it's cool to see that, right?
Right.
So he was one of the first people to do that. So, and he looked at chain link as a viable skin for his California properties, right? Just as a sculptural, like, jewelry or ornament to the buildings. So yeah, you could maybe think about that.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be a good route. Something that's kind of different from the way all the.
And I encourage you to look at Rural Studio a little bit more. I think you'd be really impressed with them.
Yeah, I liked that stuff, just scrolling through it there. So I'll have to look into it more.
Cool. So that's what you have ahead of you. So it's a slightly different alignment for this studio for you, but I'm totally comfortable with it.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Good deal.
All right. What's happening in the ball game? Do you know? The World Series?
I don't know what the score is. Let's ask them. Who's winning the Cubs game?
The Cubs are leading the Indians 4-1 in the top of the fifth inning in Game 7 of the World Series.
What's the score?
Cubs are up 4-1.
Wow.
Fifth inning.
To be in Chicago tonight could be very exciting.
And probably not so good in Cleveland.
I think you're right, Zach. You have a good weekend, okay?
Thanks, you too.
Thanks for your time.
See ya.
Mhm.